You'll know when you have a wild woman. She'll practice her craft without boundaries. She is truly autonomous. Her loyalty is only to the family she serves. She will not allow herself to be held back by a system she didn't create.
This podcast is for the birth keepers who want to grow and change, who are open to learning through self-reflection and supportive community. We are creating a space to explore without judgment. We are remembering we were born wild. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Born Wild podcast. I'm your host, Sophia Henderson, and today I have with me our newest student, Ava. Will you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Ava.
Tell us a little bit about your start into midwifery. Sometimes it's like the birth of a child, but a lot of times, like for me, I didn't have any children yet. Like, what started this like bug for you?
Well, I was in college studying nutrition in San Luis Obispo, and a home birth midwife came and talked at the nutrition club meeting, and I never heard of home birth before. I came from a really small town, and yeah, no one in my family ever even really had natural birth. I was a C-section. My siblings were C-sections. So it kind of got me thinking that that's what I wanted to do. And I finished my nutrition degree, but the whole time I knew as soon as I graduated, I was going to join midwifery school and start doing that. It was kind of just like an aha moment. Like,
Yeah.
that's it.
And was there like something about it, like some piece of it that interests you more than others, or?
Yeah, I think just from like personal experiences and the world, I'm very invested in women's health. I think it's really important, and just my experiences with doctors and not feeling heard or listened to, or
Like your
just
personal experience with doctors? Yeah.
just women's health was like always something that I cared a lot about. And then I always kind of thought I'd do nursing. I like the like medical side of things and also relationships with people and health in general, which is partly why I did nutrition. And I was like, birth is a good time in people's lives where they're happy and they're gonna be like joyful to see you and you're witnessing like good, beautiful moments. And nursing can sometimes be worse times in people's lives. Maybe you're not being treated as well, or just the energy you're around isn't.
Our story sounds
positive.
very similar because I was
Really?
like, I love the idea of the excitement of the ER. I was like, I can handle the blood and all that, but then I was like, oh, like long term, seeing everyone the worst day of their life. Yeah.
Just would not be the best situation. Work, I don't know, energy that you're around all the time.
We just binge watched on Hulu that series called The Pit.
I've heard a lot about it.
It's like an ER in Pittsburgh, and it took me a little while to get into it, but like it was good. I liked it.
Yeah, it's on my watch list for sure.
Yeah. It was fun to see how many of the medical terms I could follow. You know? And I think, I mean, some of it is midwifery, but I think a lot of it has to do with like my son's medical conditions. Like I've been wrapped in that world a little bit more than I wanted to. Yeah, it's
you do
funny.
pick things up though.
Yeah.
I watched Grey's Anatomy growing up.
Yeah.
There's still things I'm like, I think I learned that from a TV show, not from school.
Yeah. Or like where you're like, oh, this is what I think is going on with them.
Yeah. You make your own diagnosis.
Yeah. So, okay. So you were thinking nursing and then realized like, I actually want to be around people who are having the best day of their life.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I also like the continuity of care, or just that you know them. Like somebody walking into a room and you've never met them before, you don't know what they're normally like, and then trying to like pinpoint like this is what's wrong, or like this is what you should work on, just doesn't really seem intuitive to me. And I love that with midwifery, you're with people for months and you get to know them, because I think that's so much a part of like diagnosing health or just like wellness is like who they are. It's not just a lab value or
Yeah, we were saying because Carissa, there's 2 repeat clients that she was in care with them, and now they're having another baby, and that's not really common as a student because you're usually
a couple years.
And not many people are having back-to-back babies.
Happens.
It does happen. So okay, so then you heard her talk and were like, I need to do this. So what'd you do?
I reached out to her and I shadowed her at some prenatal appointments and a couple postpartum, and I did an online doula training because she was like, if you get your doula certification, maybe I could get you in on some births, but I can't really invite you to a birth if you're just like not a student, not a doula.
Yeah, someone wants to come watch.
Yeah, which I wouldn't want me there either in that capacity. So I did my doula training, but I never ended up attending any births with her. But then through my doula training, learning more about the difference between like hospital births and home births and just like hospital protocols, I felt like even more affirmed that home birth, like for a little while I was like, oh, maybe CNM or like licensed midwife. And then I was like, oh no, I could never like feel good about following these hospital protocols and just like the timeline of birth, like if something doesn't happen in X amount of hours and the whole cascade.
Yeah, having more like autonomy over.
Yeah. Which, I love about home birth, that you get to listen to your clients and you're kind of in charge of yourself. There's no like OB supervising you, or there's still obviously like regulations and stuff.
Right.
But yeah.
I always think of like, is it like Jack Sparrow who's like, they're more like guidelines, you know? It's like, we've all agreed that like these are like, this makes sense, you know, for the most part.
Which even sometimes it doesn't make sense.
Like, especially in California.
I know. So weird.
Yeah. Okay, so then what did you do?
I was thinking about where I wanted to live after school. I definitely didn't want to go back to like my hometown. My parents still live there, but it's really small and it's just, I never felt called to be there. And my boyfriend and I both wanted to live in Southern California. It's just like always something. For some reason, I saw myself there. So I reached out to a bunch of midwives in like North County, San Diego. And one of them was like, oh, this is perfect timing. We have a student leaving. Like it works out really well. And I kind of felt like, again, being affirmed, like, oh, like, I don't know, things are falling into place.
Divine timing.
Yeah. So I got that all lined up and then graduated and moved to Encinitas and started with that practice. And I really liked it, which was nice. Because so many people, I'd never seen birth. I'm the youngest of my family and even my cousins. And so many people were like, what if you don't like it? Have you ever seen a birth? And I've never even seen a birth video.
So wait, at this point you did the doula training, but you hadn't even like attended a birth.
So I've actually never attended a birth as a doula, but I have it under my belt. It's good because it is like so you had enrolled into school and everything. Okay. Because it's like a little risky because you're like, well, what if I end up not liking this? I kind of just dove in. I knew I would like it. It just felt like everything was pointing in that direction, and once I figured that out, like, it just felt so good. Like I knew exactly where my life was going, which was nice.
Yeah, good. Yeah. So then you were there attending births and loved it.
I really, really liked it. And the midwife I was working with had been a midwife for like over 30 years or something. So she had a lot of really valuable knowledge, and I loved our clients, and living in San Diego was nice. And just learning more about it has been really cool. And I'm excited to be with a different practice and see how things are done differently.
Why the move?
So I'm not a Southern California person.
You decided it wasn't your spot.
Yeah, it was just, the people there are like lovely in their own way. It just didn't, I never connected with anyone there. Like I didn't really make any friends. And I just didn't think it was the right place for me. I love also trees, and there aren't a ton of trees down there. It was like a bunch of little things that made this like big idea that like I need to get out. And my boyfriend's from Sebastopol.
I was gonna ask, like, how did you end up in Sebastopol?
Yeah, my boyfriend's from Sebastopol.
So where did you guys meet?
At school, in college.
Oh, okay.
We met my 4th year of college. And luckily he loves the whole birth world too. He was explaining to his mom the other night at dinner what sovereign birth was.
Oh, that's so cute.
So it's been nice. He's like very supportive.
I was gonna say, because that could be tricky too, like the partner in the relationship of somebody on call.
He really loves it, which is fun. He listens to all the podcasts with me. So we picked originally San Francisco, but none of the midwives had openings for students, and it just wasn't working out. And then I got a couple responses from midwives in Sonoma County, and I've been to Sebastopol a couple times and I really loved it. It's like such a cute little,
we just moved
happy
there
town, and it had the trees that I was looking for.
You're like, yes.
It's close to the ocean, which I really like love, and it's close enough to my family that I can see like my parents and stuff. So we just went with it. We like dove into Sebastopol, and we have friends in San Francisco, which is why we were looking there. But it felt really good once we decided on Sebastopol. I think it fits us better, definitely fits me better. So yeah, that's how we ended up here.
Welcome to the area, and I can tell you which beaches you'll still have cell service at.
Yeah, I know.
It's about learning where you can go and not go.
That was a thing in San Diego too, is like some beaches were on cliffs, and if you stay, like, you go far to the left, there's no cell service. I'm like, we always have to go to the right side of the beach. It's a little art form.
Yeah. Well, so in terms of like your relationship and midwifery, have there ever been any hiccups? Because there are students that listen to our podcast, and sometimes like you don't have children, so that's like a thing that you don't have to navigate. But like sometimes with relationships, there can be like little hiccups where you have to be like, I don't know, talking about things or sorting things out, or you don't know when you're going to come back. Has it been just smooth, or have you had to have conversations and navigate that?
It's honestly been really smooth.
That's great.
He's a very laid back. Maybe it's because he was born in Sebastopol. But yeah, he just is so excited for me to like get those experiences and come home and tell him about it.
Cool.
Even like
I love when dads are so excited. It's so fun.
Yeah, it's so nice. I encapsulated placentas in San Diego, and I think that could be a hard thing for like partners or roommates to like handle having in their house.
Open a fridge and then the scent.
Yeah, it does have a strong scent. And he helped me encapsulate them. He like totally loves it. He get his apron on and his gloves, and it's something that we did together. Yeah, honestly, we haven't had to have any conversations about it.
That's great.
He's been very fluid with it all. But I could see, I mean, I've heard of like husbands, maybe more so when people have kids, but having a hard time with it. Like, you're gone all the time, or his mom had a question like, well, if you guys have kids and you're supposed to be taking care of the baby and you get called in, like, what do you do with the baby? And obviously we haven't gotten there yet.
And Leah and I both were students when we had children, which we don't recommend.
I've heard
it's so much easier, you know, to like finish school before, like pros and cons to everything. So we have lots of tips of things that worked and didn't work. And my husband and I have had lots of conversations.
I'm sure they'll come up. They just haven't yet.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to be here.
And how busy was the last practice you were at?
It ranged from like 3 to 5 births a month, kind of. We had a lot of cases where people ended up transferring before they went into labor as well, or maybe like some people went past 42 weeks, or a couple breech, or I forget some of the other cases. So I wasn't always on call for that many people, but they tried to have between 4 to 6. There's a period where we just didn't get any calls for births. I don't know if it was just San Diego or if it's, I think the world, or at least the United States is starting to have fewer babies right now. So it did slow down at some points, and I never felt super busy.
Yeah. We always say it's like feast or famine, where it's like all the babies, and then we're like, is nobody getting pregnant anymore? And then all the babies.
There were some months like we didn't get anyone called who was due in like, let's say August or something, but June I think we got like 25 calls or something. Like everybody wanted to have their baby in June. And it's so interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder what happened.
Yeah. So you were the only student.
Yeah.
So what were your responsibilities?
We shared our office with other practitioners. It was just a room that like some acupuncturists or chiropractors or other people would come in and use. So I would go to the office early and set it up for our prenatals, like move the table, put our little birth statues out, whatnot. And then I ordered all the labs and did that, and the charting and uploading of labs.
Did you guys draw labs, or you just ordered them?
Drew them also. Eventually I started drawing them.
Got it.
Yeah, but I would create the requisitions.
Got it.
And to help like create new client charts and like add people's insurance cards to their portal. It was a lot of learning about like insurance and admin. Yeah.
Which is like a skill that you don't really get in school, so it's great to have the hands-on because you're gonna be a business owner.
Yeah, we went to our practice went to a kind of meeting with other midwives in San Diego where they're talking about business models and stuff, and people were saying like, I have a type A corp or all these things, and I was like, wow, all you learned this on your own. They knew so much about being a business owner. It was nice to see so many like business ladies in one room. Yeah. I was in awe of all of them. Like, they're so smart and so good at running a business. I want to get there someday.
It's hard because it's like you're either really good at that or you're like, I just wanted to be a midwife, you know, but like you're forced into it.
Yeah. I like learning new things. So right now it still seems like fun. I'm sure at some point it won't seem fun anymore. But I'm not there yet.
Yeah, maybe you'll be able to hire someone to handle all the admin.
Yeah.
Or like Leah and our situation, I love paperwork. Like I love filling out forms.
Very good team.
She's like, I love that you love that. Yeah. I used to say like Leah tolerates it. She's like, that's generous. So it works out better. So we have like our on-call schedule, but she's always on call Mondays and I do admin stuff. And then our agreement's just like, let's just check in if that ever is starting to not feel fair or, you know, if we need to like readjust. But and it all depends because admin is the same as birth where it's like, oh my, like if you have a bunch of births, you have a lot of admin to get done and then it's slow.
The birth certificates.
So
it's been cool learning how you manage your practice because it is very different and also works really well and you seem to be thriving from my one day. I'm excited to learn the admin too. Cool. It's very interesting.
Is there anything that you've experienced in birth that was interesting to you that you'd like to share? And also like what things are you looking forward to learning about or building like your skills on, like the next skill that you're like, oh, I can't wait to do this.
Yeah. The first thing that popped to my mind, we had a case where we had a client, it was her first baby, and she was really like small, short. She was like 7, and her partner or the father of the baby was like 5'5", so they're both really small. And the baby was measuring really small, and then it was a question of like, is it because the placenta's not working? Is there something wrong? Is the baby healthy? Or is like the baby just small because their parents are small and both the parents were Filipino. And that was a hard case for me because we did end up transferring her and she was young too and she came in with like all these points and she was saying like these growth curves are based on white women who like are taller on average than us and she just was like kind of pleading her case like I really want to have a home birth, like I don't feel safe or comfortable in a hospital and I would just love to learn more about or be able to like contribute to making that not a reality anymore that like we have these regulations or curves or like normal values set in place that don't apply to most of the population or like in certain areas like pretty much any of the population. That's a new interest of mine because that was somewhat recent. So I'd love to.
Yeah, it can just be so much more nuanced and it's like how to find the balance between like what the family's wishes are and like what your comfort level is as a practitioner because it doesn't matter how much responsibility they take, the state holds you responsible. You know?
Exactly.
And I know there's a lot of effort towards like trying to remove midwifery as being medical and like decriminalize it because then you have midwives who are like, no, like this is the hard and fast because I don't want to get in trouble. And it puts us in the same position as the hospitals where it's like they do everything in their power to avoid a lawsuit, you know?
Which the focus shouldn't be on avoiding a lawsuit. It should be on like having outcomes that like the clients are happy with it and where everyone's like safe and healthy.
And it's tricky because you get midwives who are like, I can't risk everything for this one family. You know, it's like it makes sense.
You have like other people that you're providing for. Like you're not just thinking for yourself. It's so frustrating.
It's so hard that you have to even like consider those things.
So I think the question was what I'm wanting to learn more about. And hopefully.
What about like hands-on skills?
Good question. Kind of everything. I had like just kind of started assisting. So I know I still have so much to learn in all of the hands-on stuff. So I can't really pinpoint one specific skill. Literally all of it.
If we had a skills day and you could pick one skill to do first, what would you want to work on?
I think suturing just seems like it's going to take so many years.
You're like, I might as well start now.
Learning. Like, I need to start right now if I want to be good at it down the road. So I think, suturing is one that just like...
And I think
it seems like an art form.
Yeah, and it's a good one for midwives to do on the regular because I can only speak for our practice, but like, you just don't really need to do it that often. But when you do need to do it, you got to know what to do. Yeah,
that's also, I want to learn more about that. because we had a lot of tearing. I mean, 80% of our clients tore, and I think all of those we sutured. So that's what's been normal to me. I know that's not the normal globally. So just also like reframing.
Or is it the normal? I don't even know. Like, what's the normal
globally? Maybe I'm just telling myself that. But just learning more about things from a broader perspective rather than just like the one practice that I worked with for a year.
Yeah. I think it's good to like work with multiple practices and the benefit of having a practice where there's two midwives too, because we'll alternate you being with Leah for visits and me, because you'll get to see that we're similar, but we're different people, you know, we explain things differently.
You're both great in your own way.
Yeah. And then you can pull like, oh, I love that. No, I'd do that a little different.
Yeah, I'm really glad that I'm also getting to work with like two completely different practices. Now that I've switched, I feel like it would be crazy to stay with the same one for all 3 years. Like there's so many things that you wouldn't be learning in your school just because everyone does have their own way of doing it.
I had one preceptor and I loved the whole experience. And that was something that I remember when I was a new midwife. I remember being like, wait, I'm just her parrot. You know, I'd been with her for so long that I just said exactly what she said, exactly how she said it. And I was like, who am I as Sophia the midwife? And so really had to do some like reworking around how I wanted to explain
creating
things.
an identity.
Yeah. So
yeah, I was noticing that a lot today in the prenatal appointment. The way that you discuss things, like it's the same topic, but the words that you use and the tone, and it is different. So that was just I have so much more to learn now. It's kind of like starting over, but in a good way. Yeah,
it's fun. Anything else you want to say for new students starting out or people like considering midwifery?
I think if you're considering it,
then you're like, just do it.
I can't see how someone wouldn't love it. I guess being on call might be a challenge for some people. It hasn't been for me. I think if you really liked maybe partying or drinking or, you know, that would be
sacrifices.
Yeah, then you would be maybe sacrificing something that you really enjoy doing. But for me, it's been really fun. I have a lot of free time until I don't.
Yeah, actually, before we end, a financial piece, because sometimes that is hard, like where people are like, how do I pay for school and do you work? Like, how do you make money? Because there's not many jobs where you could be like, I have to go and I don't know when I'll be back.
Yeah, exactly. I am so lucky that my parents are supporting me while I'm in midwifery school. It would be really hard to be paying rent right now and paying for groceries and gas and everything without being a student and without having a job. And I've thought a lot about having a job like while I'm in school to make some money, because it doesn't feel good to only be spending and not have any income. And I also like the social aspects of it. But I haven't been able to come up with a scenario in which it's like feasible.
Take the blessing for what it is, you know, and like when you move into, at least in our practice, primary role, we encourage you to like take over as much as possible in terms of like doing the placentas and, you know, all that. So students can get creative and like find their own ways to bring income in. We usually say like spend this time like thinking about that if that's important to you. And if you can just like take the gift for what it is and just focus on school, that's a blessing.
The placentas did help in San Diego when I did that. And then I did some postpartum doula work for income. Other than that, it's been a dry spell.
I mean, childbirth ed, you know, photography was the most lucrative thing for me. I just taught myself photography. And then you know, the midwife I was with was like, oh, Sophia's already going to be here. She could just snap some photos and then you could just purchase anything you want. And then they usually would hire me for maternity and newborn. And then eventually for like family photos and stuff like that. It was great. And I love documenting like those moments. And eventually it was the editing piece that I couldn't stand. I was like, I love taking the pictures. I love giving them the pictures, but sitting for hours in front of my computer editing, I was like, ugh.
Especially when you're already on your computer, like doing school work.
Yeah. And at that point I had little kids. I just wanted to like be with my family when I wasn't at birth.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. Okay. Well, thanks for coming on. We're going to be doing an interview today, and so this is going to be a little bit longer of an episode, but I wanted to make sure to introduce you before the next episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Born Wild podcast. I'm your host, Sophia Henderson, and I have with me today Ava. She's our brand new student, just started yesterday, and we're excited to introduce and interview Dr. Flores. Will you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'll do a little introduction. I am a medical doctor, so I have an MD behind my name after doing undergrad medical school for 4 years as well as residency. And I trained specifically in what they call a categorical residency in obstetrics and gynecology. So it wasn't like family med, also doing OB or like internal med and, shifting or surgery and doing that shift. So I was trained as an obstetrician. And after residency, or within residency, honestly, I kind of knew that it wasn't going to be the lifestyle that I wanted to dedicate my life to. And it's so sad because the information and the knowledge was really impassioning. Like I really was inspired by caring and learning about healing. But the system has become much more than a healing system. I mean, everybody already knows it's about creating cogs in a wheel system that can just push through units that can be built out. And then your name is actually taken from you and used to build people. And it just feels like a soul sucking vampire of an experience. And so I have always been someone who trusted in whatever the world was going to provide was going to be just enough for me. And yeah, so I jumped out and into the open waters of home birth and had to train myself basically by finding my own teachers. And I found Dr. Stuart Fishbein, and he gave me the confidence to take what I learned in a hospital format, augment my knowledge, because obviously it's not even something that's being taught in a hospital, and gave me the contacts that I needed to become kind of like a midwifery apprentice, but unofficially because I already had a full licensure to practice, and got to really shadow some awesome midwives for 3-4 years. And now I'm doing breech and twin home births. So yeah.
And just for everyone listening, we're in California.
Yeah.
And it's such an important role that you play because specifically in California, midwives are banned from supporting breech.
Yeah. It's such a crazy word to say banned. Yeah, it's illegal. Like people can go to jail for it. And it's so ridiculous. And I'm also on the side of the fight where there shouldn't be people that don't understand it telling other people that do understand it how to do it. And I think it's just something so hard to fathom in our hierarchical culture of merit, where there's this idea that the more schooling you do, the more skills you're supposedly going to bring to the table, and the more critical thinking is going to be more superior to others. And there's this lie that really we've been propagating, and I kind of saw through that even as a child, honestly. But I also knew you had to play the game to kind of have a place in the world to create some identity. So I played along as long as I could until absolutely my body was just like, no, this is not for you.
Yeah. Can you speak to us a little bit about misconceptions around breech and twins for anyone listening?
Yeah, definitely. So a few misconceptions are that it's always dangerous and there's always the risk of head entrapment. It almost seems that it's like spoken of as if it's almost 100% of the time that there's going to be issues. And that's just not true. That is a myth itself. There's many issues with head down babies, just as there is with breech babies. There are dystocias in both scenarios. Things get caught up in both scenarios. And the point is just help the baby get as compact as possible and get through a tight squeeze. That's it. And so it goes the same in both scenarios, that head down babies have a tight squeeze and breech babies have a tight squeeze, except that when you're head down, it's easier for limbs to be pushed down and back. Whereas you can't do that with a foot down or butt down baby. The limbs often are stiff in a way that they don't go up and back, but they can go in and down or out and in and then out. So there's just a different way to get babies out when they are breech. Other misconceptions include that it's just something that nobody could learn. Like, it kind of seems that people are so afraid to teach breech and to accept that there are people that can understand it, because so many people have broken it down into an academic style of thought where there's just like, if this happens, then do this. If this happens, then do that. And then under a stressful situation, often all of those patterns go out the door unless you have them really rote memorized and in your face on like a laminated paper that you're referring to, like in a hospital when they get an emergency. They do have those posters everywhere because nobody can remember everything, right? And in a home birth, you're not really going to have access to those types of booklets, posters, time to refer to manuals, la 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 la. And so for me, one of the myths is that you need to know things in that style. And for me, I've found, I almost never really see it if something was to go off basic normal, that it's going to even fit that model of finding the next flow or the next algorithm to continue down. It's much more of a knowing about proper body movement and bony anatomy and having enough people with you to cause enough space in your mind to figure out a 3D puzzle. But it's not, I hate using the word puzzle right now because it's not really hard at all. Like it really isn't. It's like getting a wine opener out of a drawer without looking, or like getting a weird shaped toy out of your child's drawer without looking. Like you don't need to know what the shape is inside for the puzzle to be figured out. You can just move in a way that you can tell whether something's progressing out or if it's not. And if it's not, you back up, try a different maneuver, and eventually there's only 360 degrees. You're gonna get the right direction. So it's not impossible to do. And so one of the things that has made it possible for me to do is that I know that babies come out. And so I will take the time to find that directionality that will get the babies out. And sometimes it does take time and it gets scary. But yeah, I usually have team members with me that just help me slow down, we all remind each other that, you know, we're okay. And we've screened this mom because we usually we do take screened moms. So we have the confidence that it's going to happen. It's like we make sure that this baby inside mom doesn't have hydrocephalus or abnormal tumors on their neck or heart physiology that's not going to compensate after a little bit lengthier delivery. Like we've verified that these are quote unquote normal children and normal moms. So it's going to work. You just, as the provider or the assister, need to figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was a baby midwife, a student, there were some things that I heard about breech and that scared me. And I wanted to have some feedback from you. So one of the things was you have to always check to make sure a mom is fully dilated before she starts pushing, because if she starts pushing prematurely, then that's, you know, when the head can get entrapped. As midwives who like don't really do a lot of vaginal exams, you know, unless it's necessary, is that something where you're like, it's different for breech babies, that is something that is necessary?
You know, I don't really check for complete in head down or breech babies at this point. In the hospital, I absolutely did because you had to. It was just like the way it was. And if you didn't, like you were crazy. Or if the baby was obviously within the vagina at some point, then you know that the mom is dilated, or that's just where you assume it is that way because the baby is below the cervical inlet, the inner os. So I don't believe you need to do that to begin pushing. If somebody feels pushy, then I let them push. And I tell them to feel confident in whatever their bodies are signaling. Sometimes you do need a little bit more pushing even before one is completely dilated to kind of get that last bit of pressure in place to complete the dilation, honestly. So there is a give and take to checking for complete dilation, because often I feel that anterior lip with breech babies, even head down babies, and they still come out, you know, even if I don't push it out of the way, it just like it happens. It is a mystery, but it's not as surprising because we see it in home birth. Yeah. So I trust that it is okay.
And then my last one is that if a baby breech comes posterior, there's no way they're going to get out, and you're just like screwed at that point.
No, I mean, it is probably a little bit scarier just because you're not supposed to see those things, like a posterior baby head down or a posterior baby breech. Like, it's just a harder angle to figure out for the baby. But the best thing about breech babies is that you can actually turn them around and make them be OA, but it's not OA, it's SA, it's sacrum anterior. And so, and in the direction that you choose is just whichever way the baby slips the easiest. And you have to do a little bit of a reduction of the baby back into mom. The tiniest bit is really just enough just to get the baby off of any bony ledges that it might be locked into. And I say these words, they sound so scary, but they really are such subtle forces that can be overcome with very gentle maneuvers, like this gentle reduction. It does take force, just because like having a big baby and a mom that usually is trying to kind of fight if there is maneuvers that have to be done. It's really hard to get a mom who's not on an epidural or sedated to really stand completely still in those situations when maneuvers are needed. So it is a little bit more of a fight physically, but it's not because it needs to be. It's just that the energy and the spirit of the moment is just bringing that into it. So
well, and the body is trying to get everything down, and you're trying to get everything a little up.
Yeah. So there's a lot of times that I have to like, and I tried both ways. Like sometimes I'm just like, mom, just stop pushing and take some deep breaths, and I'll like have mom's doula with her, just helping her breathe. And sometimes that's not working, and then I'm like, okay, now push and let's see if that changes things. And it's like, so it's just like a dance with every scenario. And I think the fact that it's something that can't be really prescribed as a recipe is what makes it intimidating to doctors, period, because they want a surgical stepwise thing that will work 100% of the time, because that's power and control. And there's a little bit less of that control. But if you're comfortable with responding to what's in front of you, then you don't really need to have control from the beginning. You have control of yourself. And that's good enough. Yeah.
Is it true that the same maneuvers to get a breech baby out vaginally are very similar to in a cesarean with a breech baby?
It is only because they train us to practice our breech maneuvers on cesareans. And it's just so that we can know what to say and do when there are pop quizzes or board exams, oral examinations where like you're asked how to deliver a breech baby. But I mean, you really do whatever you can to get a baby out of a cesarean as fast as possible. And if you miss a maneuver here and there, like that's not the important part. It's just getting the baby out. And since sometimes you do need to be really creative to get a baby out of a cesarean hysterotomy, an opening in the uterus. And that's because sometimes the baby's really, really low in the vagina when they've decided to call it that this baby's, they call it cephalopelvic disproportion. It could be shoulder disproportion. It could be, who knows what it is, right? There's a new fibroid they found, whatever. And in those situations, sometimes you do pull the baby out by one hip or you do it with both hips, or sometimes you do it with the legs, if those are like the most accessible things. Whatever you can grab and successfully keep the baby in an intact unit and smoothly get out. And if the arms do get stuck, you try a love sets maneuver, which you fold the arms across the midline and down to kind of create like a thin bar to deliver. If that doesn't work, then you do whatever you can. I mean, I've seen people deliver babies and their arms are still inside and their arms come out because you have the hysterotomy to create more shoulder space. And babies are so flexible. Like, even though like we're thinking like, oh, that's a bigger diameter to get out versus like this and like down for a baby that's been stretched like that, it just is different depending on the baby's gestational age, their health, their flaccidity, the constitution of their mother's diet, their genetic background, the size that they are, how much amniotic fluid is still around them, if they are in an oligo sac, or if there's there's so many things that could happen in reality that it's just so hard to say anything is 100%. So yeah, I mean, we train using those maneuvers. So that's why they're like, oh, doctors should know them. But it's just very, very different to do it through a hysterotomy where there's a lot more space and you can even cut further.
You can make a bigger space.
Exactly. Than with a vagina where like you really have to remember that you're creating a baby to be in the shape and size of the barrel of the vagina and the outlet. Like it's just, that's your limit. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you speak to foot lean breech? I know there's a lot of misconceptions about what is a true foot lean breech and is it just incomplete and
yeah, exactly. I mean, it sounds like you absolutely already know this. So I will say this. Okay. So there, when I was training as a resident, a lot of the training that we get is resident to resident. And I remember some of our attendings laughing at the information that we had because we were often incorrect when they would quiz us at our morning rounds because it was information that we'd learned from like a senior resident who themselves hadn't been taught by an attending or like didn't read the thing that was the right answer they were looking for. So one of the things I remember learning initially was when you feel toes, then it's a footling breech. Like that was the way they defined, the resident that taught me defined it and then taught me. And really, I never was corrected. I kind of never remember being corrected on that. And another thing I remember learning was when there was a twin mom that came in who had SROM or SROM or broken bag of water spontaneously at home, the resident above me that you always have to report to would ask, which bag was it? And now I know, so I would have to scan the babies within my ultrasound, find their deepest pockets and assume whichever one didn't have fluid was the one whose bag broke. Now that I've been out and about and doing my thing with breeches and twins, I can tell you like it's 99.99999% of the time like I don't even need to look. Like I don't even look. It's always the baby that's closest to the vagina because that's where she's dilating, creating less pressure, counter pressure against that bag. And when there's a weak spot or an unsupported area, it's just like a pimple, like with a thinning skin over it. It eventually bursts at the thinnest point with the least counter pressure. So it always is It just always is. Even if you feel a 4 bag, it could be what they call a high leak. But when we say high leak, we don't actually mean like high in the uterus. We mean just like off to the side, like by the lower uterine segment where like it can kind of be hidden and open and close depending on the pressures over that little torn area, if the head's in the way or if the cervix is getting pushed in front of it or pulled away from it, depending on position. So yeah, it could be a high leak or something, but it's always So that's another thing I learned. But yes, so for footling, sorry, going back to footling. So then I learned after I was taught this, okay, toes mean footling. I come out of residency. I meet Stu. I meet Breech Without Borders. I take their classes. And I also hear there's no way that a full term or a term baby, or even probably anything over about 34 weeks could be footling because the shape and size of the uterus expands to the size of the mother at a certain point, and the baby folds upon itself in order to, the uterus accommodates the size of the baby. And so the point of the presenting part, the importance of why people even care about that is because they want to know what diameter is being asked of the cervix to be dilated to. So if dilators are like an instrument to the obstetrician, right? Like we know we have different Jackson Pratt dilators. There's these different types of dilators we use to go from the bottom up if we have to open the uterus. And the dilator from the inside out determines how big that cervix is going to get to. So if the presenting part is the dilator and the dilator is only the size of some toes or a heel or the top of a foot, then the fear is that the cervix will only dilate as big as that baby's foot or ankle, and thus will partially deliver too soon before the cervix is accommodative of the remainder of the baby. So having a partially delivered baby is more dangerous. It just is because there's not the same forces interacting with the skin of that baby. So anyway, I have seen term babies be dilated to like 8-9 centimeters because of like one leg going through and a butt cheek going through, but not really getting to complete. And those, I've even seen like a knee dilate a mom too, a knee that came out
like a kneeling breech.
It wasn't kneeling.
Oh, okay.
It was so interesting. It was a mom in a complete position, so crossed like this. But when the baby was sitting in mom, it's always sideways at that point when the baby's in mom. That's why the babies are always either looking left or looking right inside. The mom must have had a pelvis that was a little bit more spacious in the back. And this mom actually even had a unicornate uterus. So she probably had some tightness or ligamental tightening on one side of her body versus the other. So things were unbalanced inside of her. So that baby was able to kind of scooch its booty into an area that allowed for its knee to fall into the vagina first.
Almost like kind of butterfly position.
With one leg was butterflying into it, and the baby came in at that angle with the knee first. And so
good thing they're flexible.
They are so flexible, and that's something so important to remember. Like they are so flexible, and it gives you so much space to really make it work. And so I've seen different things presenting and dilating the cervix incompletely, and I don't know. So, I mean, but yes, footling breeches are supposed, according to this new teachings that I've had since residency, yes, it happens in full term or term children, and non-term children. So
usually when people are seeing a foot present, it's more like a complete or incomplete. That is just presenting with the foot instead of the foot first.
Sometimes an oblique. I've seen that too, though. So I've seen that too, where like the baby hangs off to one side a lot more than the other, and then it is more of an oblique positioning, and then you do see like the ankles and the feet or the heels and the feet come through a lot sooner than the buttocks. And the point is that if you can say that a baby is in a complete or incomplete, that means that the dilating part includes the butt of the baby or the bottom or the rump of the baby. And that is a much larger dilator. And so regardless if there's feet there, if there's even a hand there, like whatever is there, if there's a booty that's over the internal os of the cervix, then you're going to likely get complete as long as that mother is progressing normally and doesn't tire out before her cervix needs to relax, to rest.
And I know the other thing that they talk about, like when they're saying the dangers of breech, and especially footling breech, is that yes, it's not a big enough diameter, and also the risk of cord prolapse. Is that only true for like true footling breeches preterm?
It's true for every breech, honestly. It's just more often, but still rare in an incomplete breech because there's less space being occluded by the folded baby. So if the baby is in a complete position, like completely complete, there's more things being squished down. And if the baby is in a frank position with the feet up to the face, then the booty is filling the lowest part of the bowl of the pelvis. And then there's also more of a plug to prevent a cord from prolapsing out. But in the event of what they call incomplete, that means that one leg is going up, going down, going side, going in, whatever is happening, that the baby is not completely folded upon itself or in a frank position, a pike position, then there's more gaps for a cord to slip through. But even if a baby is in a perfect frank position, if a baby's in a perfect complete position, if a baby's in a head down position, I mean, a cord prolapse can happen anytime, honestly. And it's so rare. It is so rare. And if there was going to be a cord prolapse ever, I'd want it to be on a breech baby, because then having those gaps in space means that the cord is not actually going to be occluded by a bone on bone scenario. It's bony skull of the baby against the bony pelvis of the mother, which could completely fully occlude a cord, which is how the baby is getting its oxygenated blood. Yeah.
I'd love to hear a little bit about what we just talked about, misconceptions for twins too.
Yeah. Okay. So for twins, I like to mention, I mean, you guys know this one, so maybe I shouldn't, I'll just say it. Cause like, it's like,
sometimes I ask questions I already know the answer to, but for the sake of the listeners.
Exactly. Okay. So I think one misconception is the second you see meconium, that all hell's breaking loose and this baby is like so sick and is gonna die, right? Like
Are you
that's
talking
like
twins or just breech or
both breech
Okay.
and twins. And that's what, like, also in general, like
Yeah.
anytime you see meconium, like everyone like gets a little bit, and I get it, but especially in breech, like you want to see meconium. Like when you have a breech, if you don't see meconium, then there might be something wrong with the baby, like an imperforate rectum or anus, or
Smiling because my son had that.
Okay. So that's really good to know, right?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, no one's representing that, so I'm really glad you mentioned that. And then also it could be an incompletely developed lower rectum or even bowel section, or it could be an lack of innervation. There are Hirschsprunger's diseases where the nerves just don't quite get all the way down to the bottom of the colon, and they cause constipation and megacolon because things aren't getting pushed forward enough. So if you don't see meconium in a breech, then something might be wrong. So you really want to see meconium in a breech. That's something to remember when you
Is
see
there
it.
a
Be
certain
happy.
point in labor where you should see it by that point? And is it like, would you ever transfer someone because you're not seeing that? Or this is more like maybe we should have some follow-up postpartum with this baby?
Well, yeah, because there's going to be an exam anyway to kind of figure it out. And we're going to want to see some type of stool passage. So if that did happen and you didn't see meconium, you just do a really good neonatal exam and then probably refer them if in a day there was no meconium passage.
So it's not like a risk out in labor because we're at this point and we haven't seen it yet. It's more like postpartum.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, as long as you had the right measurements and a healthy mom and a healthy baby in your prenatals, then you should continue to go forward unless there is evidence of fetal distress in other ways, variable
Yeah, I would love to
deceleration.
hear your like how to know someone's a good candidate. You mentioned a bunch of like kind of like birth defects, but is there ever anything in terms of like use position or mom where
Yeah.
you would be like, no, sorry, this isn't wise?
So it's so funny. When I was in the hospital, I saw like 99% of women have completely normal pelvises and skeletal structures. Like it was just most people just do have normal anatomy, especially if they're grown up in a place that had enough vitamins and calories in the local diet to foster a full skeleton. What I've noticed in my home birth population, and I don't know if it's because more women are a little bit more mature and I mean, like in age when they began having babies in the home birth population, at least in my experiences, at least I see things like scoliosis that can, and people have no idea that it also has relations to stiffening of their pelvis until like we're at labor and we're like pushing for like ever, and it's like this is a contracted pelvis, and I never thought I was going to see this, right? Like things like that. Also, I've seen a platypoid pelvis, which is supposed to be non-existent, a mythical creation of scientific theory that supposedly was BS. And there's literature written that there's no such thing. And I believed it too until I did a breech delivery where there was not enough AP diameter, anterior posterior diameter. And the only way we could get that little head out was to turn it to a transverse position and up and over through a if you think of a figure eight as looking on the outside of the pelvis of the baby coming out, had to go into one of those little figure eight sections to come out. Super unique. Wow. I know. And I'm like, out of all the births, like thousands in a hospital, like I don't see anything and I come out, and breaches don't happen every day at home, right? Like it's really rare, like maybe 30, 40, 50 cases and you see it. It's incredible. Like there's so much still to be learned about women's participation in the success of their delivery, you know? So I can't say no one can have cephalopelvic disproportion now because, or no one can have, or exactly.
And that sounds like that baby was born.
It totally was, but it took like 3 or 4 providers, like licensed providers. I was lucky enough to have there with me doing all the things, which is not typical, right? You're not going to have 3 or 4 trained providers there to guide and dictate what to do next. Yeah, that was a rare scenario and it worked out really well though.
Beautiful. And then in like twins, any misconceptions or, you know, how to pick a good candidate?
It doesn't mean that you're going to be able to have that honored and respected. Is that a baby in the A position, whatever one comes out, doesn't need to be in the vertex position. It could be in a breech position and be just fine. The other thing that's always said in a hospital is that even if you have a baby A in a head down position, baby B also has to be in a head down position. And that just is so hard to always get because it takes a lot of side to side space for both babies to be in that up and down position with head down. But what we see a lot of in the moms that do come my way that are willing to go through home births that are not necessarily vertex or head down is that the second baby, if it's not breech, it's transverse or oblique or something else kind of funky. And it doesn't mean anything because once baby A is out of the way, it's going to take a completely different position. And it will be in an up and down position likely because that's just the way the uterus is developed, like a cylinder, and then just goes down upon itself. It's not necessarily wider than it is taller in the natural way that it contracts down onto itself. Yeah, but I mean, there are like the rare cases of grand multips that have much more stretchy cervix or uteruses and can possibly accommodate transverse babies a lot easier. But even in those cases, if that was to happen in a case where I was, and like I said, it's really unique to me, I would just pull the feet down and get the baby out through a breech extraction. If it was a transverse, in a hospital, there would just be a cesarean for that. And that's just is what it is. Or if there was any other presentation, like arm presentation, shoulder presentation, I've seen that.
Can you speak to momo in terms of like risk factors for vaginal birth, home birth, anything like that?
Well, I don't do momo, so the mono twins. That
and can you explain why? Yeah, to people who are like, what does that even mean?
Well, okay, so mono means that the babies are sharing not only the same placenta, but the same sac as well. Mm-hmm. And so there's the chorion and the amnion that make up what we call the bag of water. And when the babies share that space, the traditional teaching, and this is actually proven now to not be true, but this is the way everyone thinks, is that the babies are going to swim amongst each other, knot themselves out, and then their knotted umbilical cords are going to tighten during labor, and they're going to cut off each other's blood supply, and one is going to die, and then the other one's going to die, and it's just every death. And it happens before even delivery. Most of the time there would be one fetal death or another fetal death that happened like at 34, 35, 36 weeks. And the truth that's beginning to be heard, so it's not even in the repertoire of knowledge for the general obstetrician at this point, is that it's not, the risk is not that the cords are going to become knotted and then they're going to cut off the blood supply to the baby. There's actually likely a cardiovascular defect that causes a shunting of enough so that it weakens one of the babies without actually causing twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome or other very severe issues of like mirroring and cardiac malformation. Like nothing super serious, but there can be enough of a difference between a normal genetic phenotype and a mono twins phenotype that it can risk one or both towards fetal demise prior to delivery or onset of labor. That has nothing to do with the cords being occluded. And the reason that is because do you guys know Dr. David Hayes? He's from Breech Without Borders. Okay, so he's the one that really is bringing that to light, is that there's usually so much Wharton's jelly and so much give to the cords that even the knotting doesn't stop blood flow. When they do Doppler studies of blood flow through the very, very knotted cords. But for some other reason, other than that, there is an increased fetal demise in mono twins. And that usually if it's going to happen, it's more than is acceptable, right? It's just more than is acceptable. And so they want to deliver those babies earlier. So those mommies will go in at like 30 to maybe even 28 weeks and just literally sit on monitors until they get to about 32 or 34 weeks and then be delivered by planned cesarean in those cases. So I don't do anything, first of all, that's before 36 weeks at home anyway. A mono twin pregnancy wouldn't even be in my black book, but mono dyes do, and I get mono dyes, and mono dyes are different than dyes because they do share a placental structure, and thus there is the risk of twin to twin transfusion syndromes. And we do growth scanning and fluid scanning just to make sure that we catch any twin to twin transfusion syndromes early on, so that we can avoid anything detrimental, first of all, but also to give an opportunity for ablation of the anastomoses between the placentas and the babies, so that they could kind of get that repaired with laser ablation and become like dyes with two separate structure of venous and arterial structures once they're separated with that ablation. So I know this is so complicated and so scientific at that point, but so the point is that if there's a mono dye pregnancy, Stu gave me the confidence. I will say Dr. Stu is the reason why I have the confidence that it is absolutely possible to deliver them at home as long as they behave like dye pregnancy, twin pregnancies, in their growth and in their labor and delivery. If everything's going normal, then we just treat it like it's normal. There's nothing to anticipate. That's it. So
Great. One thing I've been dying to ask you about is just balancing client autonomy versus clinical risk, and that is something that we're constantly striving to do. I'd love to hear how you balance that.
So it's so funny. I actually have become more stringent in my requirements. I used to be much more like, well, whatever you want, and then I almost missed a twin to twin transfusion because I let someone choose not to have ultrasounds. And it was really early on. Nevertheless, it still was like, eventually I went out of town for something and Stu was doing scans and he didn't give them the option or something. It was like, nope, you're a mono dye, you're going to get your growth scan. And then he looked, he's like, oh, this one's poly amniotic and that one's not, that one. So we're going to say there's a possibility that you're developing it and you're going to go in. And she eventually did develop it after being monitored like with growth scans for weeks, like once a week after that. And if I had just let her and she really, really, really wanted nothing, there would have been 2 dead babies. And, maybe it doesn't matter because she would have accepted that if that was what was handed to her. But when given the option and the opportunity to avoid that, she did choose to, even though it was some information that was forced upon her. Unfortunately, that was a lesson for me in that regard. Also, I've done babies that are like 43 and 3 or 43 and 4 weeks. And it's fine.
Meaning they were born at that gestation.
Yes, exactly. Spontaneous onset of labor.
When you said 36 weeks, I was going to ask you, what about 35 and 6?
No, you know what? My real important factor for that is that they're both getting EFWs over 5 pounds and that they tolerate labor. And the mom has a physio type that looks like they can accommodate it. Like they've had either a vaginal delivery or they're really tall women with long torsos that can create space so that there's clamping down and forces on the really not immature, but the less mature umbilical cords that have weaker tone and tumescence to them, that they can tolerate the forces of a mature labor like a full term or a term child could. Yes, but so other boundaries or borders that I've found myself crossing were gestational age ones, just like you're mentioning. I have made exceptions for certain people to go further than I've been comfortable with initially. And I'm like someone who really does trust and believe in birth. And I've heard, the stories of the really long gestations, 56 weeks here and like ridiculous things, right? And like it's documented,
They gave birth to an elephant, it turned out.
Right. No, there are absolutely documented stories of crazy lengths for gestational age. And so I know that things can happen. And I've heard of like quiescence of growth in babies until there's like the right factors to let them keep going. And they're like so like pluripotential that like any magic can really happen. And I have that belief. And so I do let people do a lot of things that, like, even at the end of it, I was going, why did I do that? Because I eventually had to get my hands involved, and I wasn't able to just watch and catch. And, it was, or a special cut or, tear happened that needed a more severe repair or something like that. And then I kind of do question, Victoria, should you be so open? Because you tend to attract that a lot. So I do try to be, but there are times when I use my intuition. And now if I feel like, this is just going to be more of a mess than should be handled by just you at home, like, then you have to just be kind to the mom and the baby and let them have a more comfortable delivery experience, even though it's so funny, the ones that do go ridiculously crazy, like the moms just love it. Like there's like this, like they overcame so much death of their baby and death of themselves, but like getting so close to that edge is definitely not comfortable for the witnesses, right? Especially because we have to continue on our work. Like it's good for one person, and that's the mother, and that's awesome, but it's hard to imagine offering that over and over and over and over again, because it also creates opportunities for lessons from the divine to be taught to you, and you don't want to be in one of those lessons if you don't have to be. Yeah.
I know what, like, because there's a piece for us too where it's like intuition and trusting that, and then also like liability, and
Oh yeah.
what does that look like for you as an OB? Like I know what in California it looks like for midwives, but what are you, like, in quotes, allowed to do?
I can do anything I want because I'm a physician, which is really nice, but it's also, the risk is my reputation.
Yeah.
And if something really does happen that looks like neglect or malpractice, like negligence or malintent, whatever, then it would be my neck on the block, and I would be the one that loses my livelihood. So it's just policed differently. I definitely get the looks when there is a transfer, but I've learned that I really am the expert in this, and I know that now that I've compared like me to all the other people that I'm transferring to, that I'm just like, can you just like finish this, and it's not going to be that hard. Like I've realized that I do understand it more than professionals in that regard. I'm not saying everything else. I'm not saying that I just like, I'm not trying to be better than them at anything else. It's just for that topic, twins and breech, I'm really the expert now.
It's your specialty. Yeah.
It's my specialty. And so I've been able to transfer confidently and just like, look, this is what I do all the time, and this is what needs to happen. She needs some augmentation. I know you guys don't do breech, but if she wants it and you're willing, I'm willing to assist you in that. And usually they just talk them into a cesarean, unfortunately. Yeah. So I have learned to just step into my power where I initially didn't feel that, but now I know it. I know it. I've gotten myself out of enough predicaments to know that I have more expert knowledge than the so-called experts at the top of Mount Sinai giving us our 10 commandments.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing for midwives. Like we know if we walk into the hospital, they report us, it just, they fill out paperwork every time there's a transport from home. So if you walk into the hospital, there's that fear of persecution.
Right, right. I even filled it out once for myself because it was an out of hospital birth transfer. It doesn't say midwife form on it. And they busted it out, and I just filled it out myself. So I know exactly what you guys have to go through. Yeah. But I had the confidence to say on the form, I am the expert in breech and twins, and decided that this mother needed to be in a hospital. So I don't anticipate there will be anything happening. I don't know. I would love to hear like about your side, like how you guys deal with those. Like they call about every single one, only about occasional ones. Do they ever like give the data to someone? Like what are they doing with these forms?
I would love to know that too.
Like who's reading them? Like I really would love to know. And I mean, it's just such a bias when people are only getting forms of shit, and it's not even shit, it's proper work, right?
It's
proper work.
It's probably a cardiologist that's looking over it. Nobody who even knows what they're talking about.
That's even worse. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
I've heard that midwives who are like going through like interviews and prosecution, all that, they're interviewed by someone who I've heard cardiologists before. I've heard people who are like not even an OB, let alone a midwife.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting. That's so wrong. And I would say that's not a peer review at all.
Not a peer review. Yeah. Well, I want to be aware of our time. I want you to be able to like leave all your contact and how people can connect with you, and also what your offerings are in your area and like virtual support, all those things. And also, can you just leave us with like the future of some like what you like envision for everyone and specifically California?
Yeah. So I feel like the entire world is coming to this point where they've lost faith in the powers that have promised to protect us, first of all, because they're protecting us as long as they're protected first, right? Like there's that give and take, and as long as their livelihoods are not being affected, then they'll protect us secondly. And so I think people are realizing that in order to have truth for their healthcare experience, they really do have to do their own work and their own research to manifest what they want for themselves. And everyone is different. Like there's the scaredy cats amongst us, and then there's the people that are confident that we're going to be fine even if we all die. Like we don't need to worry about that, right? Those are the extremes of it. The people afraid of death, the people that are not afraid of death. But we're all told to be afraid of weird, abnormal, not happy-go-lucky experiences for some reason. So I just feel like there's definitely more power in the people to question authority, first of all. And even if there was something terrible to happen to all of us that support home birth, like they take away all licensure, or they just decide that anyone who does it again is doing it illegally, I feel like there would be chaos and uproar and a different level of rejection from the people as a whole, since they've been so harmed by the system that they've been paying into for insurance and, social support for so long. And I'm one of those. If there was ever a chance or ever a time when I needed to let go of a license to practice, I mean, do you really think any of us would ever stop? No, like we just wouldn't. It's like all this, we'd go somewhere
back
else.
Underground.
We're just, I mean, come on. I mean, it's so funny. Like the legality of things, like it's just such a weird power struggle, because people are going to do what they want to do no matter what, if it's legal or illegal, and most people are going to be fine. Yeah. So I just have faith in us all, no matter what.
Thank you. What are your offerings to people? How can people work with you if they want to? And what's
well, so I'm not doing prenatal care right now. So when I'm getting twin mommies right now, they're with midwives that have confidence in twin prenatal care, and there's tons of midwives like that, right? Like, and they're just hard to find, and they're not publicly saying it, but they're fine. So I'm not doing prenatal care right now, but I'm working with midwives that are taking care of mommies locally. And
what's local? Where are you?
So I'm actually in Redlands, California. Do you know where that's at? It's by Loma Linda.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Loma Linda. I used to do a lot more out in LA, but the drive got to be kind of chaotic, so I just stay out here now. Yeah. But people still want to have home births for twins and breech, so they go to a local midwife, and then when the midwife shows up and does the basic care, I show up for the birth, and then it's a better deal anyway for them. Yeah, because I'm not charging for the prenatal care.
Right. Great. And then do you do like virtual consults for families or birth practitioners?
Yeah, I do. So people can email me at hello@victoriamdbirthing.com, or they can text 562-412-9144, and we'll get back and get something on the schedule to talk and see what's happening.
Great. Thank you so much for coming on.
You're so welcome. And best of luck to you guys too. And thank you for doing what you do.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe. If you'd like to follow along, you can find us on Instagram at Born Wild Podcast and Facebook. You can go to our website at www.bornwildmidwifery.com. See you later.